Hello and welcome to yet another edition of Story Talkies. Today we have a very special guest with us, Rangapriya Kannan, fondly called Priya. Priya is Associate Dean Managing Faculty and Accreditation at University of San Diego. In fact, she is the one who has been early promoted to this position and among the first ones to be there. In fact, she was chosen as one of the top 50 undergrad business professors in 2020 by Poets and Quants. And she is an alumnus of Tata Institute of Social Sciences, and she holds the PhD in management from UCLA. Today, we are going to speak to her on her favorite subject, innovation and entrepreneurship. She has been a chair on this subject in her university, and this is a subject on which she has been researching for past 2 decades. Welcome, Priya. We are happy to host you at Story Talkies.
Thank you so much, Nidhi. It's very exciting to be here, and as you know, I've been following Story Talkies for a long time, and I just think it's amazing the work that you do here. So I want to congratulate you and your team for making this amazing the success story of Story Talkies.
Anthropologically speaking, we are, in our ancestry, we are storytellers. In fact, one of the faculties that distinguish humans from every other species is that we can tell stories. But today, in the data-driven world that we live in the way the statistics, the numbers, and all the data that is getting all the prominence, do you think that storytelling is something which is not getting the right amount of attention?
In the data-driven world, stories have become even more important because here's a difference. When people are looking at data sheets, most people are you see numbers. It doesn't connect you emotionally. Stories are what make that connection. And if you look at how even senior leaders in organizations may change, it's not about thinking, taking data, thinking, and acting. It's about feeling that data, getting that emotional connection. It's think, feel, and then you change. So the story is, I think, stories are the main things that cause that connection between data and what the feeling of a person, right? Data is very cognitive, stories are emotional. You can pull data elements and numbers to kind of supplement your story. So if anything, data should be augmenting the story. It should make it fascinating, and it's not a substitute. It's not data driven world versus stories. If anything, we need even more stories to make sense of the data. That's why when you look at all these big data and all that stuff, they talk about data visualization. They talk about, right, how do you make these connections? So without stories, data by themselves is not going to appeal to human beings. I think it's now the role of storytelling has even more important than before in a data driven world.
Innovation has also become one of the often used word, and sometimes it's not used in the right context. Entrepreneurship is something which has to be innovation driven, right? So in a way, are these two words say same two sides of the same coin? Are they related, innovation and entrepreneurship?
I personally am moving away from the definition of entrepreneurship as a noun, as its own thing, but looking more into entrepreneurial mindsets, because that's what and entrepreneurial practices is you need. And as an innovator or an entrepreneur, you need to start thinking, looking at, okay, nobody's going to give you resources or enough resources to do whatever you need to do. So that's why I said it's like pulling, it's a braids, different strands of a braid, because you need to interweave them together. If you are an entrepreneur, you need to be innovative. If you're an innovator, you need to have an entrepreneurial mindset. So I would not even say they are two sides of the same coin. They just need to be together to accomplish whatever it is that you're trying to change.
Another thing that is also used often is the word jugaad, right? It's one of those words which is very very difficult to translate. I don't know how would you call it in any other language. Hustler comes very close to it, but when you see the jugaad, when you see the hustler, there's also some bit of there's a strand of innovation there. So how do you kind of distinguish between those innovators and just the hustlers, people who are trying to put something together, cobbling together, not essentially doing something which is not great, but then it does not sustain after a while. Innovation is something that sustains. So how do you spot innovation amidst all the jugaad?
So again, like I said, if you define entrepreneurs as someone who pursue opportunities regardless of the resources they control, then in that context, Jugaad would be an innovator and entrepreneur. Look, I want to do this, I want to get there, I don't have a cart, I'm going to put something together. And in fact, in my innovation and change management classes, I absolutely use examples of Jugaad because that is a short term arrangement to get something done. And that is an innovative practice. It is also very creative. Sometimes it's creative, sometimes it's not, but it's absolutely right. So it's the people that are doing it absolutely have the entrepreneurial mindset. That's why I'm drawing away, because they are trying to fix the problem regardless, given the resources they control. In fact, the other word that also comes closer to it is bricolage or bricoleurs, who cobble different things together. So basically, it's what are you cobbling together to make something happen, and that come instead of saying, "Oh, I can't do this because I don't have the resources." Because the reality of the world is, most times you will never have enough resources to do what you need to do. Now, the difference is it's different when you're doing it as an individual, cobbling things together to make things happen. However, when you translate it in organizational context, things get a bit tricky because it's always a systems view. It's a systemic view. So what you cobble together for one thing might actually be hurting something else. This is why innovations that are based on Jugaad are not really scalable.
When you talk about entrepreneurial mindset, one of the places where we see a lack of it is in a large organization, and we have seen in the past couple of years with the pandemic raging in, all of us had to adjust to new things. In fact, the bigger ones, the big guys, found it more difficult because they have very watertight systems and processes. So how do you think that organizations can innovate from within and build a culture of innovation where they are not restricted by their processes, but they are driven by them?
So, Nidhi, you're asking me to comment on about 2 decades of my work. So, it's going to be really hard to pull different things together because this is my passion, right? My whole research has been on how to innovate as in large organizations, gain acceptance for ideas. From a senior management point of view, I think one of the things theoretically we tell companies to do is to establish a context for innovation. So, if you're working in one company and you're in this area, even if your employees have the most brilliant of ideas in something completely else, your company or organization is not equipped to make that turn completely. And that, Nidhi, is so that the job of senior managers is to create a context where people and give them like broad guidelines as this is what we are broadly interested in, and let employees paint the paint the lines, right? Kind of give them the picture and then let them fill in the details of what, and that's how it's going to work really well. Yes, you can make the transition. In fact, one of my recent studies, I talk about how employees are successful only if they are able to leverage what a company does really well and take it into a new context, rather than saying everything you're doing is incorrect, let's go into a completely new platform. So I just told you the senior management level, their job is to establish a context for innovation so people can let the thousand flowers bloom. That's kind of what we call it, all over the place. So that's their job, set the context. Middle managers, if you think about it, their job is to translate the senior management's kind of thought process and what they are thinking about innovation to the first line employees. Because first line employees are not really meeting the top management every day, right? So middle managers are kind of get a bad rap a lot of times, but they are so critical in the innovation process because the narratives, the story they tell about what the organization wants, what's important, is exactly what's getting translated to the first line employees. And when you talk about the hierarchy where you have first line employees who are coming with these ideas, and the middle managers also have to take these ideas and translate them such that it makes sense in a strategic context for the senior managers. So all I'm saying is, if you think about an organization and let's say 3 tiers, each of them have a different job to do, and innovation has to be absolutely intentional from the senior management. And in fact, my whole study and for 2 decades, the reason I got spurred was, when I was working in Silicon Valley, I had absolutely brilliant friends who came from IIT, all these big, amazing schools. And they used to get so frustrated with their managers. And I'm having this brilliant idea. Why is no one listening? No one's listening because it doesn't fit the strategic context of the organization. And fortunately or unfortunately, if you strategy 101 is organizations are set to accomplish a particular mission. They have certain competencies, So they can't just drop everything because you have a great idea. It's your job to make that connection, and it's your senior managers and middle managers' job to be those mentors to help you make those connections. So it's a two-way process. They have to guide you on how to tell that story of how your innovation fits the organization. And your job is to learn how to tell the story of how your innovation fits the organization. Even if it does not, that's the key part. Even if it does not, can you tell the story? Can you make those people see differently?
What we have also seen, as in this question came up while you were talking about it, is when you talked about the context, right? Sometimes whatever we are talking inside the organization is very different from what I'm talking outside the organization, right? What I'm telling my customer is completely different from what I'm telling my employees, and therefore there are two different persona that a company is carrying. Many a times it happens, right? And we have come across many companies where we work with them and say, you create one voice inside out, be the same person. If you're doing innovation, don't just go and tell your customer that I'm doing innovation. Why can't you say this to your staff as well? Have you come across this kind of a situation?
Absolutely, yes. Actually, one of my studies that have not been published, I'm working with a doctoral student from Netherlands, is how do you make these, how do you frame or narratives for different audiences? Because what your audience cares about internally is very different from what the audience cares about externally. Now, the thing is, like I said, it has to be an authentic discourse, right? So the base has to be the same. You're not telling different things, but different people care about different things. So you have to highlight different things to different audiences. So when you are making an innovation, if, my advice is to have different stakeholder groups and kind of figure out what are the points that they are interested in, and have your story hit those points. So the thing is, in the first 3 minutes, what can you tell about your innovation that is a authentic, consistent story between different stakeholder groups, but highlighting the points that are important to different people. And I'm hoping once we get this study published, right, it's what are the how does the narrative change between multiple stakeholders? I'll have a better story to tell you.
Thank you very much, Priya. This was a pleasure speaking to you today, and we look forward to having more conversations with you in coming time.
Thank you for this opportunity, Nidhi. These were great questions. I know it had to. So I'm delighted. I'm happy that I'm able to talk to your audiences and emphasize that this is what I'm working on as a researcher. I've done this work for 2 decades, and I think the importance of storytelling and narratives is just going to be so much more important in the space of innovation and entrepreneurship and how to do it well. So I think you guys are doing an amazing job training organizations and employees to do that. So thank you for this opportunity.